Hello and welcome to the Snooty Ushers podcast. Here with me today is James. How are you?
Hi, I'm doing well, Dan. Pleasure to be here again with my fellow ushers.
Wonderful. Hello, Rich. How are you doing? Second podcast.
Very good. Yeah. Feeling refreshed since the last podcast. It's been a week or so, I've had time to settle down and rethink everything that I want to talk about, and I'm looking forward to today's schedule.
Enjoy your first podcast?
That was great. Yeah, I love Shocktober horror movies, so that was right up my street.
Cool, good stuff. And also with us is Walshy. How are you?
I'm very good, thank you very much. Always glad to be back. Always glad to be doing a podcast.
Always a pleasure.
Never a chore.
There you go.
And I'm your host Dan. I don't even think I introduced myself last time. I just kind of went.
We know who you are.
Yeah, everyone knows who I am.
You're the granddaddy of Snooty Ushers.
Yeah, this time we're going to be talking about remakes that we would like to see happen. James, this is James's idea, so I'm going to pass you over to James and he'll give a little bit of explanation as to why we're talking about this and the thought process behind it.
Well, so this is an idea I kind of had for a while, but never really kind of formulated properly. The thing that brought it into focus for me was the August release of Ben-Hur, which basically, as soon as I heard about it, the whole idea kind of made me think, why would you make Ben-Hur? And then from that, I kind of went on the idea of why do people only remake and reboot successful films? Surely there's more to be gained from rebooting or remaking a film that doesn't quite work quite as well. And so that's the idea for the podcast today. Is that basically we're gonna pitch a few remakes that could be done of films that aren't quite successful. So we're not gonna have dating of Star Wars. We're not gonna reboot Star Trek. And it's the idea is just to basically.
Sorry, I'm gonna channel our Scottish friend there. Can you reboot something again, or reboot something again?
I was going to come up with that.
Sorry, no, I'm just kidding. I'm just being a dick there. I'm just doing what Dave would do. Sorry, James, go on. You're perfectly fine.
So so that's the idea of this podcast is what films would we like to see remade?
And it is a good idea. Obviously, Hollywood looks at remakes or older films, successful ones, thinking that they've already got an inbuilt audience that would go see, but that's not necessarily always the case. Mm-hmm. I mean, Ben-Hur is a perfect example.
Yeah.
Nobody went to see that film. The original's a classic, and I mean, it just looked god awful.
I think I should also point out that this isn't a reaction against the Ghostbusters remake. That is almost a good example of a film that was ready for a reboot. It was different enough from the original version to be its own thing. There's been a lot of controversy about Ghostbusters.
I see where you're coming from, because the Magnificent Seven, the remake, was a good film, but it didn't really do a whole lot different from its original material. It didn't take any big leaps, and I was like, well, if you're not going to do anything that's really different or really deep or really address some of the characters, then why remake it?
Yeah, what's the point?
You re-release the Magnificent Seven or the Seven Samurai.
Yep.
Not always necessary. Ghostbusters was different because it did take a very different take, which didn't go down well with fans. But the Magnificent Seven, nothing really was that different. It was just new actors.
The benefits of rebooting or remaking an older film that maybe didn't do as well is that, for the most part, your modern audiences aren't probably going to know what it is. So you have this total new factor that when people are seeing the trailers for the first time of these fictional films that were potentially rebooting, it's something new to them. They don't know what it is, and it could lead to a surprise and success. To be honest, I wouldn't be surprised if it's a direction that they start going down a little bit more often when they realise we can't remake the Magnificent Seven again in the future, in the next 5 years.
Yeah.
We can't do Spider-Man again after Tom Holland's version comes out next year. I mean, that would just it's suicidal for Marvel, if anything.
And if you think we've got a Batman, Ben Affleck Batman.
Yeah, I mean, you can only tolerate it for so much, and you need, even if they weren't the best of ideas, at least try it and see what happens and what comes out of it. So, as this was your baby, James, we'll start with you. What films were you thinking about?
So there were basically two films that came to mind straight away for me. One of them is a bit of a problematic film, but to be honest, I don't know how to fix it. It's the film Waterworld with Kevin Costner, which is a film that it was probably just before I started sort of my regular kind of film going, but I know it as being the most expensive film at the time, and it's a film I didn't see in the cinema, saw again years later on TV, not even on DVD or anything, and it's a film that's kind of just very, very average. But however, that was one of the first ones that came to my head, that why wouldn't you remake that sort of thing? I don't know. I think I know why you wouldn't remake it. But one of the films, a more modern film than some of the ones we're going to discuss today, that I would want to remake would be John Carter. That would be the film that I would want to remake, and I think one of the problems with that film is that it took itself a bit too seriously. It also had at least one too many framing devices in the film.
Yep.
Who was your lead actor in that film? Just refresh my memory.
I believe it was Taylor Kitsch, I believe.
And of course, you've got such great, talented lead.
Well, yes.
You know, the man recreated.
One of the greatest Gambit.
Really?
Oh, I think.
Really?
I think.
I'll hit you across the table.
I don't doubt it.
I swear to God. I'll take that cake up and shove it somewhere. Do not test me.
I think John Carter was a very expensive film. Because of that, I think it got a bit too worthy. When really, sort of source material is from. In case anyone doesn't know, it's from the same person who wrote the Tarzan stories.
Edgar Rice Burroughs?
Yes, that's the fella.
In case you did not know.
In case you didn't know, I'm sure all our learned listeners would have known that already. Basically, it should have been a lot more fun than it was, and there were sort of moments of it was fun, but there was a lot of very, like I said, a very worthy kind of like fighting for freedom kind of thing. So, as Welsh you mentioned, the lead in this film was Taylor Kitsch.
Yeah.
I would, and basically, you can probably guess where this is going. I would recast my lead. My John Carter would be the one and only Jason Statham. And basically, my idea for this also comes from Independence Day, and that of course has a very famous moment of Will Smith punching an alien. And I just think the idea of Jason Statham landing on Mars and just punching,
getting oiled up,
and just punching his way through a Martian army would be the. I do believe that would be the film that would remake it. I also think that it would basically strip away the idea of John Carter being a hero on Mars because of some sort of issue about his bone density, because the gravity is better on Earth, so therefore he can jump around. If he's a hero on Mars because he's a badass and becomes a leader of a rebellion, I could see that working a lot more. I would be a bit worried that it might fall into the danger of In the Name of the King, which even I would admit is
every Statham film has that chance.
Is a slightly below par Jason Statham film. So John Carter would be the film that I would remake. I reckon you strip it down. Like imagine if John Carter had been made in the 80s.
It had so much damn potential, man. John
That's
Carter. I was so disappointed with it.
It's actually got some really good bits in it.
I know.
Yeah, it does. Yeah.
Almost too long though.
I remember watching it it was on BBC Two on a Sunday afternoon, and pitched like that. It works really well. It's like almost like an old-fashioned fantasy slash.
But again, it ain't what you do; it's the way that you do it, and
yeah.
The ideas were good.
Source material's there. It's just
it's just. Again, it's in the execution more than the actual.
Yep. So my idea is John Carter, Jason Statham as John Carter. He goes to Mars and he kicks ass, and that's my way of remaking that film. You know, hey, maybe it isn't a $200 million budget film, but I reckon that film is a better way of getting into that John Carter character than Noble Effort that we saw, but the sort of confused and messy version that we saw.
That was supposed to be the new Star Wars before Disney actually purchased Lucas film and all the rights to Star Wars.
That was one of the last attempts of Disney. That and kind of Prince of Persia.
Yeah.
Where their attempts to set up franchises
that failed
before Disney just went,
hit the Star Wars button.
Prince of Persia really really crashed and burned, didn't it? It was another backing on that a lot.
I'm glad that Dave isn't here to say this, but Sorcerer's Apprentice was one that was a similar attempt.
Enjoyable.
It was a pretty good film, but didn't find. It was an attempt to set up a franchise and didn't find a audience. Of course, it was
aimed rarely though again because it's very much for kids and young people-ish. But when you've got Nicolas Cage, I'm sorry, it draws a more adult fans to it. Like we've got some serious Cage fans who will go watch anything with literally Nicolas Cage. So it brings adults.
Literally anything.
Like I'm not joking. Like anything you think of it, they'll watch it.
I think it's Jay Baruchel as well, isn't it? Who plays the younger kid, and even then, this is someone who got his rise to prominence was not through family-friendly films. It was
sort of gross-out comedy.
Gross-out comedy, crude, stoner.
Yeah, I mean, meant to be family-friendly, but had a very sort of culty kitsch set of actors who draws a very adult indie crowd, and I just think again, it just didn't quite work. Okay,
so John Carter of Mars is James's first choice for a reboot that we would like to see. Walshy, you've got one.
Yeah, I'm going to go back to a film that I quite enjoyed, but it's not great, is The Wanderers. Good film, came out in the 70s, came out as a B-side to The Warriors, both films based on a small novella, both based around gangs within New York, both sort of meant to look at youth and deal with young gangs and youth gangs. However, The Warriors became a cult classic, whereas The Wanderers just sort of failed into nothingness, really. And I think The Warriors has come to a place where it's loved, it's enjoyed, it's respected. Even if you're not, a huge fan of it, you go, it's not too bad. That it's a pretty good
You
know,
can
the
watch it
music's
now. You
good.
can watch it now and appreciate. Like,
Yeah, the music,
yeah.
the stylization of it, you know, the violence, the idea of the running at night, and talked about the director. Saul Newell was talking about it, how they flooded the streets after it rained once, and every other shot to flood the streets, so you had the lovely illumination of the streets, and it really is good. And the fighting's quite good, and the characters are quite simple, and it's not too overblown. It's good. Whereas The Wanderers, it's really cheesy. It's meant to be about Italian gangs, and it's more accurate because these kids are actually kids as opposed to 30-year-olds playing teenagers. But I think you could do that now. I think you could do that and make it say 15 and do some interesting stuff. Look at abusive parents. Look at absent parents. Look at a guy who's a bit of a player getting his girlfriend pregnant, and his girlfriend's families are gangsters, and he's got a choice. You know, there's a lot in there to look at. You also look at racism. You can still look at because it deals with racism. You've got the Wongs, which are the Chinese gang, the Del Bombers, which are the African American gang. You've got the Baldies, which are skinheads. So it's quite creative, and I think you could really, you know, a nice solid cast, a nice story. You could really address some quite critical and quite important moments of youth. You could do all sorts. Now you could look at homosexuality and you being a young gay man or young lesbian. You could look at women. You can look at education like The Wire did. You know, you could do something really good and really bring out. Or you could go the other way and do something again highly stylistically violent. It works both ways. I think that's something I could definitely see doing it. Cast wise, I've thought about it a few times, and it's hard to pick because it's trying to get the right cast, and it's hard to get a young cast that's believable as opposed to casting 30-year-olds as 15-year-olds doesn't quite work. But I've always had in mind. No, he was in The Last Exorcism, and he's in Banshee. He's Banshee in X-Men.
Landry Jones.
Yes, I think he would be very good as sort of one of the team joining the gang or something. I just see him. I just like him. He's not so weird and dweeby but he's not so big and butch that he's alpha. I just like him. I think he's a very good character. I think he could definitely work. But that would be my choice. I think you could do some really interesting things with it.
Do you think reboot of that is something that would work, like modern day audiences would take to?
I think so. I think teen films are quite a big thing. I mean,
would you set it? Would you?
I'd set it. I wouldn't set it in the 70s. I'd set it now. I'd set it now.
Yeah.
I wouldn't set it in the 70s because there's no point.
Well, yeah.
If I'm going to look at the sort of the issues of the day, if I'm going to look at sort of racism among Italian Americans and Black African Americans, or I'm looking at Chinese Americans and Indian Americans, or gays and straight, whatever I'm going to do, gang wise or whatever, I want to be set in a modern setting because then that's how you draw your audience. Kids or younger people or a wider audience go, oh, actually this is interesting. I'm going to, as opposed to setting it in the 70s and people are like, well, that's the 70s, it was different back then. That's the thing I would go for. But I mean, what do you think? Do you think that's a?
I definitely think
I think it's definitely got potential,
Because the original novel was just small characterized chapters about different characters and the different gangs, whereas the film sort of put it in a more structured whole. You could tell it was bringing together lots of little stories and a big sort of, it was very much a character study of youth at the time, as opposed to The Warriors, which is a very simple story of based on a Greek myth, where they're stuck and they've got to get back home, a city that wants to kill them, basically. So I think The Wanderers had potential. It didn't quite make it because The Warriors was so... And it was also, The Warriors was controversial, it was banned. And when you ban a film in the 70s, people were like, we've got to see this film. So I think that's why it missed out. And I think you could do it now and do it different and do it and make it more interesting. And really, have a message, or do something interesting.
Something for the kids.
Or just do something that's interesting. We always talk about, dealing with stuff and having good characterization. You could do that.
The thing that came to mind when we're talking about that was the Kidulthood, Adulthood, Brotherhood. I think that's the most recent one, wasn't it? Those sort of films. Obviously, they're set in a very distinct part of London, but
the
they
themes
have
appeal.
the
themes appeal.
They have kind of dealt with not exactly those issues, but they deal with a lot of issues that.
But young people that I teach do like Kidulthood and Adulthood because again, there are similarities. It does resonate with them. So I think you can do that. I think you can do it in such a way that it would work.
If I was to make a choice, one, it would actually be a film that I discussed, I believe, in my first ever negotiating Netflix piece, and that was a little gem from 1989 called Robot Jocks, directed by Stuart Gordon, the man behind many H.P. Lovecraft adaptations, including Reanimator. If you don't know what Robot Jocks is, I would recommend watching it, especially if you love sort of figure animation and films, the stuff Ray Harryhausen popularised in the 60s and the 70s. It's set in a post-World War III where war's outlawed, and instead of having wars, nations fight in massive robots for control of certain territories, and it has a little bit of a Cold War angle, I believe, and you've got the European nation fighting against what is either a German or a Russian nation. It's a post-apocalyptic world. You've got these people living in these horrible flats and people trained to become these jocks in these massive machines. Now, unfortunately, Guillermo del Toro got to it a little bit sooner than I would have liked and made Pacific Rim, which had massive machines the size of buildings smashing things to pieces. Now, when the Robot Jocks came out in 1989, you didn't have the CGI, they didn't have the technology that you've got these days, and I think, though I enjoy watching two little model robots go at each other, firing little things and crushing plastic buildings,
it works.
A la Power Rangers,
It works.
It's enjoyable to watch, but it doesn't have the same impact as something like, say, Pacific Rim, where it's a lot more scintillating and it's a lot more emphatic in its action. I think there's the film that stars like actors or actresses that you wouldn't have seen anywhere recently in any film, and even Stuart Gordon himself fell off the radar a little bit after some of his recent films. The topic of war is obviously a very interesting one, especially in a post-apocalyptic world. Mad Max Fury Road might have reinvigorated the post-apocalyptic genre a little bit, as well as the zombie subgenre.
I feel if you wanted to make Robot Jocks like a serious film, you couldn't call it Robot Jocks.
Well, not Jocks with an X.
Yeah, you couldn't call it that. Like if you wanted to make it sort of a realistic sort of war film with robots like countries fighting each other with robots,
yes,
it could not be called Robot Jocks.
It still sounds very Gundam Wing-esque.
Yeah.
It sounds very Gundam Wing or Mobile Suit.
Yeah.
Because they're very similar, and you have the colonies in the different worlds, and that's sounds similar. Sounds interesting. I would watch it.
But, I mean, there's stuff in the film which, if with a better sheen on it, I guess, and maybe some better direction, a lot of it still resonates today. Where because war's outlawed, people actually watch these battles between robots where people actually die. They have stadiums for it. They're watching it. They can watch it at home on their TVs. You know, it's popularising the effect of war as entertainment, despite the fact it's been outlawed. I think that's some very sort of interesting subjects to delve a little bit deeper into.
And again, war's still a topic. I mean, we're just coming off out of a long war with obviously where there's issues with the government and Tony Blair, and obviously, I mean, it's I know it was earlier in the year, but still, I think war is always a hot topic. I think it's.
What is it good for?
Absolutely nothing, someone might say.
Exactly.
Say it again.
But yeah, Robot Jocks. Watch the original, but I think it's a film it didn't do too great. It didn't set the box office alight. But I think advances in technology these days, Transformers films like Transformers 2, 3, 4 are all nonsense, possible shite. I mean, I can find enjoyment in them in some places, but you apply that technology to something like Robot Jocks, and maybe, I mean, you can keep it as light entertainment, or you can make it as serious as you want it to be. Either way, I think there's a film there to be remade that people would go see, and I think it would be very good if you did it, put it in the right hands. Gore Verbinski maybe is a director you put behind it, the guy who did Pirates of the Caribbean 1, 2 and 3.
Thinking James Cameron, I think, could do that pretty well. I mean, I do like James Cameron is still a good director. I mean, he's some of the more recent stuff's not as well received as say his earlier stuff.
You mean like Pocahontas?
Yeah, well, that's the Mohicans. Yeah, I get that. Dances with Smurfs. I totally sort of see that, but he still is a good director. I mean, yeah, this guy brought us the Terminator. Aliens, yeah. So it's not like he's a bad director. He can do it. It's just he needs good source material, not Pocahontas.
and Robot Jocks is that good source material to bring him.
It's better than Avatar. Let's be honest.
Okay. Rich.
Sorry, just before you jump in, Rich, I just wanted to say, we mentioned this, Dan mentioned it, had it not been getting rebooted or remade, I would have chose Power Rangers, because in case anyone is interested, I'm a huge Power Rangers fan, and I would have chosen that as my choice for reboot. Sorry, Rich.
You may very well need to reboot it again after March 2017.
We don't know that yet. It could still be a good film. I'm not expecting Oscar award worthy. I'm expecting something that's somewhere between Twilight, Hunger Games, and Chronicle. I'm not making any qualms about that. But I'm just saying the bar for Power Rangers is not high. The TV series bar is not high. The film bar is even lower than the TV series, which is saying something. When your basic thing is stock footage and you can't get a good movie made, I'm looking forward. Alright, it's going to be awesome. Well, not awesome, but it's going to be good.
Okay,
it's going to be alright. We'll see how it goes. Sorry, Rich.
That's right. So Rich.
So like Dan, I'm going back to 1989. There's a young man named Rick Moranis who is in this film. I would like to see a reboot of Honey, I Shrunk the Kids.
Yes.
What?
Yes.
Whoa.
Sorry. Yeah, people loved Ghostbusters, right? But a reboot still happened. Okay, people love Honey I Shrunk the Kids.
That's a questionable thing if that was good or not.
A reboot is most likely it could happen. Okay. But
Okay.
I would like to see just it totally flipped on its head, right? I would like to see
What,
some
Honey I
sort
Shrunk
of
Ourselves?
maybe.
Or Honey I Blew Up the Kids?
It's still going to be Honey I Shrunk the Kids, right? But I'd like to see the Rick Moranis guy. He's not coming back. You know, he took a break from acting. I'd love to see sort of a horror element to it, almost like the Rick Moranis character is a madman. And
You know what?
He shrinks.
I take it back.
He
That's really good.
shrinks a high school, okay, and maybe he's the janitor of the high school can take the floor buffer over them.
Yes.
You know, maybe there's little factions of small children rise up and they're fighting spiders and
the class pet, the class gerbil or something becomes a recurring kind of
or the frog
enemy.
that's about to get dissected destroys the kids. You know.
Yeah.
I think that would be really cool.
This
Like,
is sounding like a genuinely terrific horror.
It
comedy.
It sounds like
I'm
a
actually
survival
really- I
Literally,
horror
film.
first I was ready to lynch you, and then that, and I was like, you know what? Actually, I really would. I'm interested. You won me over.
It's quite terrifying, like being up and close with insects, isn't it?
I can imagine
You know,
that would be.
and
You think what's in a school? Like I work in a school, right? And if you're tiny in a school, that's filthy. Them
Well,
carpets are
that's
filthy.
there's that too. There's cockroaches and stuff
Ew.
to fight with, and like the Rick Moranis characters plays. I haven't actually put any thought into who could play the madman shrinking.
Nicolas Cage.
There you go, shrinking kids with his laser. Okay, and he's just shrinking different parts. And you've got sequels. You've got the bloody old people's home getting shrunk.
Yes.
Then it's getting destroyed by ants and colonies of fucking flies and stuff. You know.
We should make this film. This sounds an awesome film.
Yeah, I mean, obviously the film did do well when it came out, and it is much loved. But I just feel like the next few years it will be remade.
I'm not gonna lie to you. Actually, it could easily be in the works. It's not beyond Disney to do.
Oh yeah, for sure. Yeah, Honey I Shrunk the Kids. It's been a while since I saw the film. I think I'd like to see a fresh take on it. You know, you don't see many films about shrinking people there.
Shrinking
I'll agree with you. No, you don't.
children and
Yeah,
putting them in
shrinking children.
death-defying situations.
Yeah.
I'm totally on board with that.
If anything, it's something that a warped version of Saw would do. You know.
Yeah, it really is.
If Jigsaw was a mad scientist,
Yeah.
build these little mouse traps and like rat
Actual
mazes.
mice.
I love that idea. That is
Great
amazing.
idea.
Honey I Shrunk the Kids. That's
And again,
good.
I was ready to kill you before, and then on that premise alone, I'm like, I'm on
I
board
know.
with you.
I had another one as well, but if we're doing two,
No, go.
I was thinking about Children of Men. Sorry, I could do with a remake. That didn't do too well when it came out.
As in
Clive Owen, yeah.
With the baby in the.
I think because that was such an interesting idea. Like the last child on Earth has perished, and no one's having kids anymore.
I
isn't it?
think that it's not a trend that I particularly like at the minute, but there's a big trend at the minute in TV of adapting worlds of films being adapted into a world.
Because it was a great looking film.
I reckon
and a great
Children of
story.
Men could be one of them that
I
could
like
work
Tim
as
Savini. It was good. It was just. I don't know. It just was a bit slow and a bit.
Yeah, it's
delayed, but
just never happened with it.
And Charlie Hunnam is a Geordie, which was weird.
Yeah.
Because everyone thought he was American.
Yeah, like you say, TV series
I
could
think
really
that
work
could
for
be
that. Yeah.
That could be a you tell that first story over the course of your first 2 or 3 episodes, and then you move into the bigger world of
there is a lot of it's basically the whole world, isn't it?
Yeah,
That's
yeah.
being put under this.
And there's so many things you could do with children, and there's so many things you could do.
I just think that world of not having a world without children,
Trying to have secret
such
pregnancies.
was such a.
And someone actually having a child stored away, or some ways around it that could.
I reckon that I'm seeing a Walking Dead style huge hit with that one.
Yeah,
just like
I think that'd be good. Yeah, that's just I don't know. I just remember that not doing very well. I know you said look at films that didn't flop quite a bit. And that's a film I really liked. That didn't do as well.
I think the problem was it was too serious and too bleak. I think that's why
it was belabored. It was quite arduous, and it was quite.
I think that's why people didn't go and so it had one of Michael Caine's more memorable performances.
Yeah. Had some great direction in it as well.
It's
Alfonso Cuarón, isn't it?
Yeah.
Who directed it. He's got there's a good tracking shot when I think he's running through the Morris
I've only seen the once, but I like Clive Owen. Clive Owen's a very good lead. I think I like him. I think that's something he's made for.
Mm-hmm. Just gritty sort of.
It's that kind of thing he's made for.
Marcus Phoenix, Clive Owen.
No, not a chance. Nah.
But yeah, Honey I Shrunk the Kids and it's honourable mention to Children of Men.
So I'm not going to give a second choice. What I am going to do is I'm going to list some of the worst films ever considered. And I want a yes or a no from whether you would remake this or we should leave it as the classically bad films that we've received. from the start of time. Okay, Plan 9 from Outer Space. Would you remake it, or would you leave it as it is?
I'm trying to think if I can cast Jason Statham in the film.
Can you think about it? Casting
Probably not.
Can we get Christopher Loken in there? Maybe Jack Kendrick? Then yeah.
No.
Okay.
I think that's a type of film that is just. I mean, you could remake it, but I don't think there'd be any point. I think that's a classic of bad cinema that should be left alone.
So don't even try to make it better.
I
just
don't.
leave
I don't
it.
think you. Well, I
Can't
don't
make
think
it better.
I don't think you can't make it better. Easily, you know the.
You can't not make it not better.
Yeah.
Okay. How about the Duck? Especially considering his short cameo at the end of Guardians of the Galaxy.
You could. To be fair, I don't think you'd get a whole lot different than what you did in the original film. It would just be. It would just be a bit more visually tight and a bit nicer, and I think a little bit more up to date. But I think you'd still have stupidity and that weirdness. I think.
I reckon if there was only one Ted film and Ted 2 hadn't totally bombed, I could see a Howard the Duck film in the kind of
I could see it.
the kind of world of like.
I'm not gonna lie. I've never seen Howard the Duck.
You're not missing much.
So I mean, to me, it just sounds.
In the comics, he was just a kitsch character.
Yes.
One of the only things Stanley actually created originally on his own.
He
He didn't rip off anybody else.
from a different dimension who ends up on Earth.
He's a cigar smoking.
I've had the option to watch it,
gun-toting.
so I would remake it because I've had the option to watch it and not watched it. So
Alright.
I would remake
You
it
could.
just so I could watch a
think-
better version of it.
I think you could. I think there's certainly scope for it.
Okay. Superman 4: The Quest for Peace.
No.
I know we're resident Superman
Yes.
fan.
Oh damn! He's
isn't-
gonna be so mad.
Yeah.
You shouldn't have mentioned Superman when he's not here.
Yeah.
But yeah, in his absence, would Dave remake Superman 4?
Probably not.
Oh no!
In the same way that we sort of apologise for Welsh, I'd like to apologise to any Scottish listeners for that slanderous. I don't even know if it's slanderous.
I would not remake the
I
old
wouldn't.
Superman films. No.
I wouldn't remake any of them, to be fair. Yeah, I agree.
I don't think Quest for Peace is
Maybe
a
get
terrible film.
maybe
is
get
it?
Brandon
I mean,
Routh back in
Are
there.
you actually joking?
It's
When he
taken the
pushes
idea
nuclear
too
weapon
far.
into the sun, that makes what I believe is Quasar, if I'm correct, Evelyn. Yeah, it's Quasar.
Yes.
Bring back Brandon Routh. Yeah.
Well, hey,
Well,
yes,
they've got that
absolutely.
That wasn't his fault. That was not his fault.
No, he was a great Superman. I feel.
He was made to be like Christopher Reeves, and he shouldn't have been. He should have been allowed to talk and not to be Christopher Reeves.
Okay. Jaws: The Revenge.
I haven't actually seen it.
I mean, in this day and age, what can you do with a shark film now? I mean, look what they're doing with
bigger
sharks.
shark.
Yeah, exactly what they're doing with sharks now, Sharknado and all that crap. I mean, you can't do much with shark that Jaws hasn't done to make it something scary. I mean, Deep Blue Sea did something different, you know, like experiments on sharks and stuff. And I love Deep Blue Sea; it's like a guilty pleasure almost.
Yeah.
You know,
The Shallows was an interesting turn, an interesting sort
Shallows
of
was that. I really enjoyed Shallows actually.
sort of idea on spin on the sort of.
but I mean,
That's
there's
an
not,
idea, but-
there's
It's
not
probably,
a ton
I
you
would say no to remaking.
Okay.
because it's just going to be the same.
Any Highlander film after number 1?
To be fair, I think the first Highlander's enough. I don't think you need anything else after that. You don't need the series, which is god awful, by the way. You certainly don't need Endgame.
I don't know if anyone's seen them. I suppose it was the attempt to reboot the Highlander movie franchise.
They talked about it. I didn't know they were how
Yes,
far
there was
along.
there was a version that. Oh, I suppose we get this right for all the Highlander fans who'll be listening to this.
Would Dave be good
Don't
at
want to,
Total Highlander?
Maybe. But there was one that tied the TV series and the
Endgame. Highlander
Yes.
Endgame. So you had 1, 2, and 3. Then you had the TV series. Then you had Endgame because people were like, oh, well, how can you have two? How can you have two McLeods and how can you have two Immortals? And I was like, yeah, this is a film when the aliens actually,
Yes.
you know, this like, can we not? This is a man when Christopher Lambert's playing a Scotsman and the Scotsman's playing a Spaniard. I mean, you know.
Yeah.
I think that's a no, Dan.
That's a no on any Highlander.
That's a definite no.
There was
multiple no's.
There was one where he went after the source of the power. It was meant to be a trilogy. But it didn't work out. It was terrible. So I would say that Highlander, unless Jason Statham could do a good Scottish accent.
To be fair, the
I
first
reckon
Highlander isn't that good. Not
Oh
really.
yes, there is that as well.
It's not that good. It's really not.
Well, it was good enough to have enough films that came after it.
But that doesn't make let's.
And then, to be honest, I'd go watch a Highlander film. You know, Jason Statham getting the top of the top actors list is always not sat the best with me. But a Jason Statham film,
We'll have
a
to watch this
Highlander film,
Highlander.
that's
The
an interest.
Rock as Highlander.
The Rock is a Kurgan.
I don't know. That means you have to die. I don't know. There can be only one. the one.
Well, there's not, because obviously, you know what? We're not getting into it.
Highlander Law coming up.
We're not getting into it.
The 1995 classic Showgirls.
Yes! God, yes, you remake that show. What could you do in a modern day with prostitutes and strippers in Vegas and corruption and oh my God, you could do wonders with it. Because that film was shite. It was dross. How that got made, I will never know. How it got from the script to the and people shot it and went, oh no, let's do that take again, let's do that take again. Oh no, that's a really good take. That's good dialogue.
That's the film that came out of that someone at every level that people were like, that's
really
the right
good.
way. That's the right way to play that film.
Really good cast as well, isn't it?
Gina Gershon, she's from Saved by the Bell.
Yep, they were so good that we remember.
Yeah. But again, like some of the dialogue, like who thought that was good? Like, what are you doing? You're fucking without fucking her. Everybody's got AIDS and shit. And then when he's grinding on her and she's like, let's fuck. I'm on my period. Check. He goes, okay. I mean, what? That's gross.
We've seen a remake to Showgirls.
Yes, Jesus, yes.
I think so, yes.
I can't get much worse. It seems.
It really can't.
Yeah.
I don't know, because apparently there's a film called Showgirls 2, Pennies from Heaven.
Shut up.
Which is a parody sequel from 2011, which is an actual sequel to the film Showgirls.
And I hate when they're like, oh yeah, it was a parody. No, it wasn't. You're trying to do a film that failed miserably.
It features numerous cast members from the first film who reprised their roles, including Dewey Weber, Greg Travis, and Glenn Plummer. Early script and Kickstarter fundraisers.
There's also a rape scene for no reason. The woman's going to consentingly have sex with this guy who she's loved and is willing to have sex with him. And he rapes her, and I'm like, but she's consenting. Why are you raping? It's just crazy. Why?
So while she remakes Showgirls... Yes, okay.
Sorry.
That's alright. That was quite an impassioned...
But seriously, though, she's consenting. I don't understand it. I just don't. Sorry.
There's not much to understand about Showgirls.
No, there's not.
Apart from the fact there are naked women on screen. Batman and Robin.
Nah, leave it.
Leave it?
I'd leave it.
I think if you remaking Batman versus Robin, that'd be a film, wouldn't it?
Has a place.
Batman and Robin is the continuation of a line that went too far from the original sort of Batman.
I mean, no one actually cares. Watch,
movie films.
if you can get a hold of it, watch the behind the scenes of Batman and Robin. It's basically Joel Schumacher giving reasons why the film the way it was and just apologising. Basically, give it a watch. It's really interesting.
It has its place in the Batman history, hasn't it? Batman and Robin. So
again, I'd rather watch that than I would watch some of the stuff that's been produced these past few years.
Yeah.
It's better than most of the X-Men's. The later X-Men's. It's definitely better than Batman vs Superman. It's better than Fantastic Four. Yeah. It's better than Green Lantern. It's better than Wolverine Origins.
Green Lantern.
It's, I don't think it's that bad, not in comparison.
Green Lantern's got a place in my heart. Or Ryan Reynolds does anyway.
Ryan Reynolds, swear to God, that man's amazing.
Anything with Ryan Reynolds is close to my heart.
Ryan Reynolds is harsh.
Okay, right, so we started off with looking at films that we would remake that did poorly. Now we're going to have another quick fire thing. Films, we're going to look at the 80s. Is it sacrilege to try and remake or reboot these films, or is it something that you could get away with? The Breakfast Club. I think you could remake it, and I think that type of film would have enough.
It's very similar to my idea of The Wonder was that you'd be really doing the same kind of thing, dealing with teen issues.
You'd be touching on real life issues and this day and age.
Yeah, one of the issues you'd have to make it quite. You'd have to take remaking that film seriously, and then you kind of miss some of the lightheartedness,
some of that charm, don't you? The original holds.
Do it in a Peru. That'd be interesting. Do Breakfast Club in a Peru where I work. Totally different day.
I feel like social media would have a much bigger influence on the way something like the Breakfast Club would work out. These people.
Tension is not like that nowadays, anyway, is it?
Remember, it is, but not in England. That's an American. That's an American
attention system.
Yeah, I mean,
maybe then if you take everyone's mobile devices off them at the beginning of the film, maybe that then does maybe the issues are still there that people don't
interact.
Yeah, as much as people are more people are more connected than ever, but also more alone than ever. It's
set that in a Peru where I work on a Saturday when they've got to come in for attention, and you watch. That would be a different film entirely.
Bum fights.
Okay, E.T. the Extraterrestrial.
No, I don't think that needs remaking.
Is it sacrilege to remake it?
I think it's beloved by a lot of people.
Yeah, I think remaking it sacrilege. If you're gonna remake it with air quotes there. If you're gonna remake it, do what any honest person would do and just blatantly rip it off.
Or
But
if you're
don't
going to
put it
remake it, take my Honey I Shrunk the Kids idea and make him E.T. a vicious ass alien.
Yes.
Right? And he's
Yeah,
here to
yeah.
fucking
Yes.
destroy people.
Yes.
Just with his finger, just jams it in like the
Chest.
throats and then he just blows
the
people up.
opposite of a chest buster on aliens.
It just explodes people like a nuke finger or something.
E.T. killing children, that's again another different.
There you go.
It sounds like something Trauma would do.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah.
So you see him in the fridge just eating organs of children that he's kept in.
Okay, there's been talk of a sequel to this film for years now, and it's not stopped. The Goonies, sacrilege, or can do it.
Yeah. Again, I think you have to take it very seriously if you can redo it. I don't think that'd
I
work.
don't think it would work. I think again, where we are now is a generation. I think adventures and biking and stuff is not really the done thing. It's not. I think unless again you had something where there was no technology, and that's when we ended up.
If you put the Goonies and E.T. together, does that make like a Stranger Things type of
It absolutely does.
thing?
Yeah, it absolutely does.
So
I know
technically
you
it's kind of
throw it
already
through
been
there.
done, hasn't it? So
Yeah.
I think it could work. Yeah,
Yeah.
because Stranger Things has proved that groups of kids doing adventurous stuff.
Was it super rated that, didn't it?
Yeah, and it works. Yeah.
Gremlins. Again, talk of a third film. I don't think Joe Dante would do it, but advances in technology. Do you do?
Nah, I think.
Nah, you've got to keep it.
To be
Aesthetic,
fair,
you know.
as long as you did it with puppets and stuff, I think you could probably get away with it. I think. What would you do differently? Would there anything you would take on it? I mean,
I think to hit the right.
because that's what I get. There's a big argument about how appropriate this is. Because some people are
Yes.
like, oh, it's for children, it's for kids,
Yeah.
and then people are like, oh no, it's a 15, it's not for
Yeah.
kids. It's it's one of
I
the
think
weird kind of.
You'd have to go.
Transitional
You'd either have to do it. Like in making that film in 2016, you'd either have to go very light, which kind of wouldn't really appeal to an audience, or you go very dark, and then you miss out the whole idea of the kids.
Still
like
love
something
when
like
the Gremlins come when Gizmo gets
Oh, yes.
wet, and
Yeah.
I mean that's a fantastic scene, and then they're just getting. I just think it's great. You know, it could be done. You could. I don't think it would be separate. I think you could do it.
I don't think in 2016 you'd be able to make what is on the surface a kids film, but it's actually a terrifying horror film as well.
Definitely tough to do and make money
Yeah.
on the film itself.
Beverly Hills Cop, sacrilege, or
Easily would make that.
But what is that nowadays? You know, it's just any kind of
a Kevin Hart film.
well, there
Yeah.
you go, cop
Yeah.
out
Yeah.
or anything like
Yeah,
that.
yeah, it's a Kevin Hart. It totally is.
You've answered your own question there, so it has been remade.
Yeah.
Okay, obviously, unfortunately, this year marked the passing of David Bowie. Labyrinth.
Again?
The Muppets have came back.
Yeah, you could. I mean,
I think I would be on board with a sequel, like a belated sequel, return to the labyrinth or
I
something
think
like
I
that.
think as soon as you recast, you run that risk of well, it's not
Yeah.
David Bowie, so it
Yeah.
doesn't count for me.
Yeah.
That's the people in
It's
the
the average
hole.
cinema goer.
That's the internet on the whole. Which is,
So I think that I think you have to leave that. I also think
I
again.
can't remember much about like I only watched it once or twice years ago, so I don't really have very fond memories of it. I know a lot of people hold it in high esteem, so I'd be down for a remake.
Yeah.
I'd be down for it. Yeah.
I could see a remake working, especially if they use like the Jim Henson's puppets and whatnot. I think it was Henson himself directed Labyrinth,
Yeah.
didn't he?
Yes.
executive producer on Dark Crystal.
Bill and Ted's Excellent Adventure.
They are redoing. They're doing a sequel on
They're looking to do a third one,
I'm
but
afraid
again,
they're doing a
it's,
sequel.
they're doing a sequel. Alex Hunter and Keanu Reeves have been talking about it for years.
Yes.
Do you remake it?
I think.
I know.
But did they turn into a Dumber and Dumberer situation? You know, when they tried to like do a sequel kind of remake thing
Well,
to
I
that,
think it
it's,
was
with different
Dumb-
actors.
with
It was 20 years too late. It
Oh,
was
yeah.
a sequel
Dumb and
20 years
Dumber,
too late.
Dumb and Dumber.
I think.
Yeah, but and then Dumb and Dumber 2 sort of tried to retread old ground, you know?
Yeah.
Tried to remake it.
Again, I mean, yeah, you could. I just don't know how you're right. I think you'd be just.
you know,
Yeah,
I think-
it's hard to pull off them jokes nowadays.
But
like, in this,
I think you could pull it off right now. I think you could pull off a film with two absolute idiots
was it with
going
Yeah,
through.
it's a Judd Apatow film now waiting to happen, isn't it? Really,
Mhm.
Judd Apatow film there. Two douchey stoners. It's Pineapple Express, really, but just.
How about this? Make it with two women in the leads.
very
How about
Ghostbusters of you.
That'll,
Controversial.
that gives
Paul
it.
Feig going to direct this as well?
Yeah, hey,
Yeah,
why
yeah,
not?
yeah.
We'll get Melissa McCarthy.
I think Kristen Wiig
Kristen
sorted.
Wiig. It's so original.
It sells
Well,
itself.
to be honest, the idea popped in my head from a film that came out sort of a couple of months ago. Well, I think it came out. We didn't sort of play it for very long, and the name's gone out of my head. But it starred Anna Kendrick and Aubrey Plaza.
Mike and Dave need wedding dates.
That's the one, yeah.
Ooh.
And I reckon, you know them two doing a
What do you
Bill and
mean,
Ted style.
Zac Efron and what's his name?
Adam
Levine.
Levine.
Adam
To be
Levine.
fair, Adam Levine, that would be actually a
Oh,
good duo because
any-
he's
any-
very good as a duo. Then too.
Any of them two, yeah.
Okay. I was going to say Scarface, but I actually think Anton Fuqua is doing a
Yeah, he is,
Scarface remake. Or,
Scarface, of course, is a remake.
Yeah,
that's
in
it.
and of itself, yes.
Again, you could, but it's just because it's one of those iconic sort of characters.
It is like
of
the
actor.
rise to power sort of thing.
Yeah, but also then Al Pacino is one of his. I mean, alongside that and The Godfather are two of his filmic iconic roles.
Typical.
You know, so I think you'd run who would you cast as,
Mhm.
who would you, and then you'd always get the game. Oh, well, it's not Al Pacino.
You'd have Al Pacino as in a cameo pulling
You'd
up
have
in a
to-
yeah.
taxi with like a
Yeah.
taxi driver, Ivy.
Say hello to my little friend. Yeah,
Airplane. Sacrilege.
Yes.
Would
yeah,
that
it's
be-
sacrilege.
Not for me. Like,
Yeah, it's a sacrilege.
I mean,
Then again,
if
no,
you
it's a
could,
sacrilege.
if you could get enough jokes into a script,
Nah, it's a sacrilege still.
I don't think there are enough jokes that aren't already in Airplane. I don't think there are enough written jokes to put into a script
I think
to
it's
remake.
sacrilege. I think
Like
it's
Airplane.
airplane
Yeah.
puns, you know,
Yeah,
it goes
I reckon Airplane's
rest
a
of
two.
them.
I mean, it's
But they did do airplane too.
no, they do it. It wasn't as good. And if there's a similar one that I can throw in at this point, I maybe it will be on the list. And there is actually talk of a remake with Ed Helms. It's a film that I think definitely shouldn't be remade. If, like I said, if you want to do it, just rip it off like you would do. Just copy the character and do it. Well, anyway, Ed Helms has been linked with a remake of The Naked Gun, which I definitely think is something that I don't know why you'd even attempt to do that. I mean, it reminds me of like Steve Martin trying to do Sergeant Bilko and
Yeah.
sort
Yeah,
that
it's
sort
that
of
kind of
thing.
thing. It just
It's just
doesn't.
like you're either
Or the Pink Panther.
Yeah,
Yeah.
right.
If you want to do the
Yeah.
Pink Panther,
Well,
it's just.
Mhm.
I'm not a huge Naked Gun fan. I prefer
Mhm.
efforts, but it's very much that time, that right person,
Yeah.
that right moment. That just everything about it was right.
Mhm.
To try and recreate that
Yeah.
type of film just doesn't work,
Yeah.
and you just get shit.
Yeah, I
Basically,
agree.
just
I think
flat lines.
Naked Gun to me, to try and do that again would be sacrilege. I think you can get away with it with Vacation and National Lampoon's
Thing is-
Vacations
yeah.
because there's so many different things you can do
Yeah.
with that. With the Naked Gun, that is Leslie Nielsen
yeah.
on fire.
Playing it. Frank Drebin is played so straight.
And again, it's done. Yeah, he's playing it straight
Yeah.
in what is basically a farce. And
Mhm.
I think it's the same way. I don't think you could remake Austin Powers either. I don't think anybody
Austin
else could
fantastic.
do that. No
Yeah.
one could do it.
I watched them back obviously. You draw how
Is there any actor like Mike Myers now though, like who could do that role?
I think there's a lot of talented SNL people you could
Mhm.
do it, but I mean they would never get it to the what
But
he
again,
did with that.
imagine if that was released now. I don't think it would ever do as good as it did. It was just again.
Again,
it
it's
was
just
just,
of its time.
it was, yeah.
Right place, right time.
Yeah.
It just
I
sort
think
of really hit.
yeah.
How about An American Werewolf in London?
No, definitely not.
Sacrilege?
I
Sacrilege.
think everything in that film holds up. It's still got one of the best
It is.
werewolf transformations
sacrilege,
in any
sacrilege.
film. Like so,
Again, it's that there's a fear of what's going to happen in the film. Even though it's a comedy.
plus
film,
it always
pretty
gets
much
brought up in top werewolf films anyway.
Yeah.
So
And you're right, that transformation is still even now. It's one of the best.
it's still like close to the bone.
Nice.
And that's very real.
Okay, right. We'll move into the 90s.
Okay.
Some iconic films in here. Groundhog Day.
Well, I hear Andy McDowell, so yes, because I
Always
spy
really
on
tread
passion.
old ground.
Yeah. I don't know. I think that could be.
Yeah, you could do that. I think you could do that easily. That wouldn't be a problem at all.
I
also hate
could
Andy
see
McDowell.
that maybe as a. I could see that maybe as a TV kind of a remake as a TV series.
That's gonna
No,
be a tough watch.
No, I think you could do that as
Like,
I think you could do that as a
also-
film. You could. That's not really sacrilege because there's nothing really stand out in that movie. It's just Bill Murray doing, it's not his best turn. It's not a bad turn.
I was looking at those 90s films. I think there's too many iconic ones there. So I'm going to go back to the 70s. Well, Halloween was already remade. Do you try and remake something like MASH? Is that sacrilege?
That's what.
See, the problem with MASH.
That's not
it's
sacrilege. Watch Scrubs. Watch Scrubs. There are so many similarities between MASH and Scrubs.
Yeah.
It's making light and dark situations.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. And I think the thing with MASH is, if you are, I suppose, right.
You could remake it.
If
I
you're
think you could.
remaking it,
And I'm an Altman fan, and I totally think you could remake it.
if you're remaking it, you're remaking a fifth. You're setting it in the Korean War.
That's it. Between what?
yeah.
I
So-
wouldn't bring that
so-
up today. I'd set that
yeah,
as it is.
Yeah. So I think you can remake it. I think obviously things would change in the sort of. It's like the Dan Busters film that was going to be remade for a long time. Stephen Fry wrote a script for it and everything. It never got off the ground. But I definitely think the ideas of kind of just friendship and camaraderie and
again, just make it like trying to find fun in just what is a horrendous situation. The TV series is really good. I love the TV series. The film's amazing. The book's great. I think, and again, Scrubs was the modern version of it. Scrubs, it's very. I find a lot of similarities between that. You've got very colourful, funny characters in some quite depressingly hard situations. And I like it. I think you could easily make that. Yeah.
Dirty Harry.
Leave that alone, man.
I think that's sacrilege.
Do you think it's?
I don't know. Actually, maybe. Well, that's right.
I don't want to listen to anyone else like with them. You know, like, quotes at everyone.
But again,
knows
it's one of those like very much like Scarface and that. It's the actor that I think makes the role, and it's become such a
Dirty Harry is now such an iconic character. Maybe someone would give it a go, of.
And he'd never
reinterpret that character. I mean, that's the thing. But I think Clint Eastwood is.
I mean, Clint Eastwood's not a good actor. He's a mediocre actor.
For the longest time, he was called Harry.
Yeah,
Harry Eastwood.
I just don't know. I don't know if he can. I think that role is so tied to him that anyone else doing it would sort of.
I agree.
Would actually be different enough anyway. So it might be able to work.
Okay, Close Encounters of the Third Kind.
Yeah, you could.
Make it a found footage film.
That could really work. Actually, yeah.
Found footage.
Why aren't you in Hollywood right now?
Alien. Found footage alien.
Seriously, you go to Hollywood. You'll miss it.
Yeah, because most alien found footage films have usually been about getting abducted.
Go to Area 51.
Oh yeah, go to Area 51. As opposed to finding some crashed object, as opposed to this first-hand account of.
Oh, I like it.
That would be very interesting, actually.
Yeah, you could. I think there's nothing. It's not so drenched in film law that it can't be redone.
Yeah.
Okay, so before we let you go, James wants to give you some information about some upcoming pieces on the blog.
Well, one of the things is exclusively on the SnootyUshers.com. As you guys probably hopefully know, I'm in the middle of my rundown from Halloween to Christmas. 57 films in 57 days.
Again, I repeat. When do you work?
It's been an interesting journey so far. Some of the films varying in quality. Some of them make you full of the goodwill to all men. Some of them slightly less so. So yeah, I just want to invite you all to join me on my journey through Christmas films I'm currently watching.
Okay, so that is it from us. Look out for James's epic journey from Halloween to Christmas. A new film every day. Some of them good, some of them not so good.
Definitely.
So you can find all this information on the SnootyUshers.com. You can also find us on Facebook at the Snooty Ushers, Instagram also the Snooty Ushers, and Twitter Snooty Ushers. That's it from me. That's it from James, Rich, and Walshy. Thank you for joining us.
Bye, everybody. Bye.
Bye.
Love you.
Thank you and good night.